Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good.
Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single.
What the hell is going on, man? Am I okay? All right. My understanding from Keaton is that they're not having the storm up there. Okay, so I'm on, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm on. That's totally, yeah, that's an upstate thing. All right, so let's see what's going on. All right, so he's got to restart the computer. All right, so anybody who saw my live stream over on Russ on the Road, you know, I was in hotel hell. So now I'm in hotel heaven. I moved down the street. Lovely, lovely place. Keaton's trying to call me. Lovely place. I would, if I could, I would bring you outside and show you. But yeah, that place was an absolute nightmare. Total scam, no hot water. All right, hang on. They're trying to call me. All right, so Keaton will be back on in a sec. So yeah, I spent 2 days hiking around in the Hmong villages up in the mountains. And it was just amazing, like the way that they live. It's very interesting. It's not. I was told by a lot of people, you go to these villages and they're very depressing. And I'm sure some of them are. In fact, I went to one in Thailand that I found very depressing. That was like hill tribe people. They seem to be doing pretty well. They have their traditional farming way of life, but they're also making money from the tourism. I guess this is really what makes the difference between it being very inspiring or it being depressing. Do you feel like they're in control of it? Like, do you feel like this is theirs? And yeah, you definitely feel like there's their land. They're choosing to make what I assume is a lot of extra revenue from bringing people over there. But yeah, man, dude, it's really, you spend a couple days just living in these villages, and it definitely makes you think, like in terms of fundamental quality of life, in terms of day-to-day happiness, who has it better? I'd say these people are happier and healthier than the average American. My guide was actually married to the party secretary for the village, and she to her house. There were like pictures of Ho Chi Minh, and yeah, it was crazy.
That's enough.
So,
Communist.
Hey, those commies put on a hell of a show. You will see. So I have the Tet video dropping 10:30 a.m. Monday, and that's going to have the Tet night. Those commies put on a hell of a fireworks show.
Okay, let's see what do I got here. My bad, folks.
Your mic.
I know, this is really brutal. What the hell is going on? What is going on? I feel like Tucker Carlson interviewing Mike Huckabee. What the hell is going on?
Hang on. I thought the storm isn't by you.
It's so...
Storm issue. No, this was not a storm issue. This is a hardware issue. And when I brought up... Now my mic is good, right?
Yes. All right,
Can you hear me?
Hang on. So while you're getting set
No, when I went to switch my mic, it had my webcam on as my second mic option. Like, my webcam's not a microphone. No, something went wrong with my computer. It got totally overloaded, and it just froze. So that was my bad, everybody. I probably had too many programs running at the same time. I usually check that, but yeah, it was boomer. It was a boomer error on my part. I admit that. Well, hey, everybody, sorry about that. We're coming through okay now. I restarted and I closed my other programs. I closed my Epstein cameras. They were wired to the. They were wired to the computer.
But who's watching the massage room?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. All right. No, it was so weird. I mean, it was a wide. Speaking of massage and Epstein, it was like a whole device crackdown because I went to call Jake to tell him what was going on, and the first time I called Jake, he answers. He's talking. He can't hear me. Like the microphone on my phone shut off. Very weird. Right. Device attack. Who knows? Maybe it's this guy's fault. Let's bring in our guest. Let's not keep our guest.
All right. So I'm just going to adjust this clamp because it's leaning and it's making the mic do that.
All right. Very well. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks everybody for being here. Sorry about the rough technical start. See, when Russ gets his tech going, mine just totally malfunctions. 1530 strong in the YouTube chat, 568 strong over on Rumble. We're also co-streaming this portion of the show to Revolutionary Change. So, hello, Revolutionary Change. My name's Keaton. This is Russ, my co-host. As you can see, we do a very professional job over here. And now we're going to introduce our guest. He is the co-host of the Revolutionary Change podcast. He is also the co-founder of the Revolutionary Change PAC. Friend of ours, going back a while, Peter Hager. Peter, thank you for being here, my friend. Sorry about the wait.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. It's been too long.
It's been too long. Thank God your mic and your camera's working. There you go.
Hey, listen, I thought we have technical problems on our show. Geez, you're making us look 5-star positive. It's like you guys got slammed with the storm.
It was brutal. Well, we do have weather around us, but actually upstate is not bad. And no, I think it was just a hardware issue on my end. I had my video editing software open. I had like all these programs open that I usually check to make sure that's not the case beforehand. But for some reason, it was not to be tonight. But hey, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Want to talk to you about some stuff. Obviously, Revolutionary Change PAC is the PAC here. I just want to show the About section on your website. Feel enraged, get engaged. Revolutionary change is necessary when the political and electoral systems has failed to address the needs of society. So I'll stop reading there and turn the mic over to you. You and your co-host and longtime podcast partner and collaborator, Jen Perlman, have decided that, I guess, instead of Jen running for office again, to form this PAC. So why don't you tell us all about it and what you have in the works for the midterm season?
So obviously having the experience of running a couple of congressional elections, you learn a lot about, what works, what doesn't work. And, when we got this thing started, it's been a vision that Jen had for a while. And I thought it would make sense to, do a test run of it this election cycle. And, we're very much alongside where you guys are at. We've always been there, even though Jen ran as a Democrat in the primary. But it's pretty obvious that the two-party system is dead. It couldn't be more obvious with what's going on in Gaza, what's going on domestically as well as internationally, and in lieu of what's going on potentially in Iran over the next several hours. I have a new saying: voting blue won't save you. So I hope a lot of people will start learning that that's a real saying. And so the whole basis behind any type of a PAC is that you want to lift up candidates that truly are on the side, not just of being anti-Israel, but being pro-revolution. And as of this moment, the candidate that we are backing, because the one thing that we've noticed, especially in the times that Jen ran with these organizations, they have, as Jen likes to say, big eyes, small stomach. You end up supporting way too many candidates. You dilute how much of the resources you really have, and then you're not able to get the message out there that you really want. And so what we've done is kind of honed in on a handful of candidates. And as of this moment, we are currently backing Kshama Sawant, who is an independent running for Congress in Washington's 9th congressional district against a congressional representative who has been in federal office almost as long as, with all due respect, Russ, as long as Keaton and I have been alive. And that would be Adam Smith. Guy's been in office for going into his 4th decade. And he is not only a complete corporate shill, doesn't support single-payer health care, living wage, or a clean environment. He's also a very avid supporter of the state of Israel. So to say that this would be a great juxtaposition of a race to get involved in would be an understatement. The other thing that's unique about it is that it is the state of Washington, which is one of 4 states currently that, at its totality, there are certain elements of it that exist in New York City and the state of Maine, which is an alternative to the traditional primary rules. In the state of Washington, you have the jungle primary, which means the top 2 candidates will make it to the general election. There are about 8 candidates, I believe, that have declared for this race. But since politics in general is a money game, there are only 2 candidates in the race that have any money: Kshama Sawant and Adam Smith. So that is who the general election in November is going to be, based on the fact that she has been a mainstay in Seattle politics for the better part of 2 decades. She's been very successful, not only at the local level, but at the national level. She is a name, she is a brand. And of course, she is diametrically opposed to the two-party system, which is something that we have been looking very vociferously to get involved in whatever capacity we can. So in this case, we are backing her campaign. And in terms of what we are fundraising for, what the Super PAC, Revolutionary Change PAC, is going to be using our funds for, specifically in this race, is to have, and this race runs along the I-5 corridor in the greater Seattle area and south of that region, is having billboards on the main drag of this congressional district. And now, of course, we cannot, as a super PAC, be endorsing Kshama Sawant, but we are backing her. And so naturally, we are going to be presenting billboards that are going to go directly after Adam Smith, most likely in the capacity that he is pro-Israel, but also to the fact that he is a very detrimental representative to that congressional district, of which, like as I mentioned, he's been the representative for more than a generation. And of course, when you have somebody in this day and age that thinks that they have the right to die in office, I would think that that's something that most people these days don't want to see any more of. So it's a race that we fully back and are going to do everything we can to help elect Kshama, who I absolutely think has a very reasonable shot at winning this race. I know a lot of times people want to run and they want to make a good impression. But the one thing that we have to do logistically in this outside the two-party duopoly movement is hone in on races where candidates actually have a chance to make a legitimate impact. And there's no question from what I've seen so far that Kshama definitely has a chance to win. So we're going to put all hands on deck to make sure that she can. And assuming we're able to raise the prerequisite, each billboard is usually about $15,000. And the goal is to put them up 3 months prior to the election, which is generally when people start to pay attention. It's usually 90 days out. And then from there, trying to get about 4 of them up there. So 60,000 is a realistic get. And then from there, obviously, there are going to be other races that we're going to pay attention to, not the least of which 2 in particular that we're very fond of, that we've communicated with on the regular: Anthony Aguilar, who's running in North Carolina's 13th district, and Greg Stoker, who I believe is running in the 31st district of Texas. I believe it's 31. It is 31. Yes.
And they're both running with the Greens, correct?
That is correct.
And Kshama's running independent. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just happenstance that they're running outside the two-party system. They happen to be excellent candidates. So
Sure.
From that perspective, I think that that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, you got 3 post-duopoly candidates here. We're big fans of Kshama. We've never met Greg, but we followed Greg on the Freedom Flotilla, obviously, so he's the real deal. And we've had Anthony Aguilar on the show. I know you had him on last night. He's a great guy as well. So seems like a solid slate of candidates. But I have to ask you, because, we in the sort of cynical bastard dirtbag left space are not really acquainted with the rules and the procedures for these PACs, because we always kind of thumbed our nose at PACs. Oh, we can't do that. We're $27 at a time through the website. That's how we run. And cut to here we are in, Banana Crime Family meets Rhodesia, Donald Trump's second term. That's what Michael Brooks, I stole that line from the late, great Michael Brooks. It was one of his best zingers. His Banana Crime Family meets Rhodesia. I can't take credit for that one. But point being, fight fire with fire means, hey, if they're going to flood the zone with dark money, we have to be willing to compete on that level. And I would agree with that. However, because we've been so cynical about this for so long, we don't really know how this works. I don't know how it works. I'm not saying you don't, but I would like for you to explain to me and the audience exactly how this PAC thing works from the standpoint of, okay, so on your website, you don't have any candidates listed. Neither does Asa PAC, by the way. We've seen other PACs take off. The anti-Zionist PAC with Michael Rechtenwald, who we've interviewed. There's going to be PAL PAC now, which is a pro-Palestine PAC. There are certain PACs who list like APAC, I think you could just search the candidates who they bought on their website, and then certain candidates don't advertise. So what is the deal? When you say you can endorse, what are you allowed to do? Are you allowed to just flood the zone with messaging that suggests you favor one candidate over the other? Like, how does that work?
So basically, when you're running a super PAC, you cannot have direct communication with the candidate.
Right. So you can't coordinate with them. You can't coordinate you can't ask Kshama for a graphic for the billboard, right?
Can't do that. You also have the ability to basically protect yourself in terms of your identification. One of the hallmarks of a super PAC is that a lot of times people really want to get involved in contributing to a given campaign. When Jen ran the last time against Wasserman Schultz, there was somebody in particular who wanted to contribute but did not want their name out there publicly for fear of retribution, reprisal, etc. So I certainly understand that. It's also recognizing the landscape within which we're playing in right now. And I know your chat, and again, there's a lot of crossover. We've been doing stuff with RBN, and what it really comes down to, guys, is that it's not a question of whether voting matters. Voting matters to an extent, but it's not going to save us. So what ultimately ends up happening in these sort of, again, our channel's name is Revolutionary Change for a reason. In revolutionary moments, it's not that you have to just halt elections altogether. Although if I have anything to say about it, we might end them altogether.
Maybe.
But at the end of the day, the reason they matter is because if you can get people elected into office that are not on board with what the corporate empire establishment is doing, you might find the path to getting things done a little bit easier. That's really the goal, because elected officials are not going to save you and they're not going to facilitate the revolution. However, if you get the right people in, what they may do is step aside and allow the people that are trying to bring about the change the country desperately needs is going to have that happen. It's not going to work that way in all races, but there are ones who are definitely on the mission, if you will. And that's why somebody like Kshama Sawant, in my humble opinion, out of all the candidates that are running nationwide right now, especially at the federal level, there is no one better, and there is no one with a better shot. So I think that honing in on this race is absolutely tantamount to any goals that we may have. And not only is electing her what I think substantial, but to coin a phrase from somebody who thinks they may be president in 2028, she will actually bring the ruckus once she gets to Capitol Hill. That is something that Kshama will 100% do if she gets there.
Well, certainly. So it sounds like what you're saying, and I saw Jen in the chat here. So Jen says we can endorse. So it sounds like you can endorse, you just can't coordinate. Like you could say we support X candidate, but you are not allowed to coordinate with the candidate. So it's there's kind of a fine line there. Okay, cool. So thanks for.
Well, if you wind up having a successful PAC, that would mean you have a lot of money coming in, right? How do you not wind up being beholden to the same people that any other PAC is beholden to? Like once you start getting people who want to write serious checks, they want serious commitments to certain policies and attitudes and ideologies. No?
Well, I would say that it's fairly similar in the juxtaposition that our respective channels have gone through over the past few years. When we first linked up, we were lucky to have 30 or 40 live viewers, and you guys were in a similar situation. Obviously, things have changed substantially for both of our respective channels, which is great. Obviously, you guys are at a higher level, but that's great. And
you guys are right in our tails, man. You are 110.
Yeah, you're doing well.
We are, but you know what? We're also a heavily shadow banned channel, and everyone knows it. And the reason why is because we're not going to change who we are. You guys haven't changed who you are, and we're not going to change either. If those are the breaks, then so be it. We've seen other people that have been given the opportunity to climb the ladder, so to speak, in a lot of different ways. And it's not just podcasting, it's everything. And they changed their tune. We see it as blatantly as those that are willing to take the 7,000 a post checks from the Israel lobby if it works for them. For us, it's about the mission. It's about the revolution. And if we can help facilitate it, and it doesn't have to be violent, but the establishment is making it very clear that it might have to go that route. So if that's the case, then so be it. But we can't look at what's happening in the world right now and just sit on the sidelines.
Well, what about the footloose theory that this all ends in a dance off?
Well, I can move for a white guy, so I would be happy to get on that dance floor. I got no problem with that.
Well, look, I think there's.
Are you willing to kick off your Sunday shoes, Peter?
and cut loose? Yeah, I could cut loose. Maybe not as good as Kevin Bacon, but I could do my best.
Well, I think it's interesting because
How many degrees are you from him? Do you know?
That's a very good question. I would say, if we're being honest, Bacon, maybe 2 or 3, I would say, at most.
I'm 2.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we've been on a trajectory. I remember I first came on you guys' show, what was it, 5 years ago? Not 5 years ago, probably 4 years ago. We weren't really on YouTube 5 years ago. Something like that. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. And, in going through these few years and seeing where we are now, it's interesting because you talk about revolutionary change and the nature of a revolutionary movement. The most revolutionary thing I've ever witnessed in my life with my own 2 eyes was last year when we went to St. Louis and we spent the day touring the African People's Socialist Party's projects. It was a farmer's market with Free Palestine t-shirts and revolutionary Black Power literature. It was a community garden where they grew food and gave it to people who need it, where they were building a bakery in a food desert, where they built a state-of-the-art basketball court for kids to play at. They built not just housing, beautiful housing for people getting out of prison to like put their lives back together. Like, that's all revolutionary energy. That was the most revolutionary thing I've ever seen. And it was the most peaceful, supportive, loving energy I had been around in a very long time. So to your point, I mean, I think the goal, obviously, is to organize politically in constructive ways like that. And I think there are certain candidates who definitely represent that kind of revolutionary energy. I think all the three on your slate or potential slate represent that. I think Jose Vega, our friend, represents that in a huge way. But I also think, you know, we were very stringent in our sort of post-duopoly position a few years ago because under the Democrats, it just seemed impossible. And I think one of the things that I've sort of come around to, and we talked to Mike Rechtenwald about this, who has Republicans on his slate if they're anti-Zionist. You just have to find wins where you can make wins. And so you had talked about originally perhaps getting behind Graham Plattner, but now you feel like he's pretty much got it, so it's not an efficient use of resources. So when you're looking around at how the midterms are shaping up, so far, the three candidates you've mentioned are post-duopoly, but you said it's just happenstance. So are you eyeing certain races where there's energy, maybe within one of the two parties, where you have a chance to replace someone who's worse? And the reason I asked this, sorry to go on, but you got this guy, James Fishback. Is that his name? James Fishback? Who's the Fishback in Florida? Who's a Republican who's running against Ron DeSantis, saying he's going to get Palantir out of the state and all this stuff. What is your opinion on him, and what do you think of the idea? Sorry, I'm asking two questions at once here.
No, it's all good. Listen, that's the thing about podcasting. You have to be willing to juggle 3 or 4 balls.
Yeah, you got to juggle 3 things at a time. Yeah.
So Fishback is a millennial like you and I, and he's somebody who is a very slick salesman. That's the way I would describe it. You have term limits in Florida, like most states, and in this case, DeSantis has turned out. So Byron Donalds is the person I have picked. I have selected him to become the next governor of the great state of Florida. But Fishback has decided to get in the race. I don't think he'll win. I also think that he has a little bit of a checkered past, not just in terms of his commentary, particularly about women, but also about his position on Israel that he magically changed over, recent time. So he's not somebody that I would, listen, there's a really distinct possibility he's going to come on the podcast. And I already told our contact that that we truly know that I'm like, listen, I'm not going to go easy on him. So, I'm happy to let him come on and say his piece, but, we have a right to say ours. Now, in terms of a race that I do think is worth paying attention to that we're not currently involved in, I would 1,000% be paying attention to Aaron Baker, who is the primary challenger in the GOP in Florida's 6th Congressional District against Randy Fine. Now, to me, Randy Fine, think of all the bad attributes of Wasserman Schultz and now take it to a 12, because the guy never shuts his mouth, and he clearly has a lot of skeletons in his closet, as I'm sure Russ would agree. He's overcompensating ever so tremendously for God knows what the hell he's into. I'm shocked he's not in the Epstein files, although he's probably in some other files that we just don't know about as of yet. So I would say that congressional race is one that we are not currently involved with financially, but in terms of a race that I would be looking at in terms of where I think a definitive flip could actually happen, which Asa PAC, Rechtenwald's PAC, is actually backing as we speak.
And that would be a Republican, just to be clear, right? Because a Democrat has no shot there.
Republican in the primary. We're talking about.
Because a Democrat has no chance in that district.
That's a dead red district. And again, I get on it with people who just, who are in the game, and one who is backing Josh Wheel, who was the Democrat running last time. I'm like, yeah, it's all well and good, but you're going to lose, and you're going to lose badly. So sure enough, history, no matter what they say about what's going to happen in the midterms, with rare exceptions, some might happen. Do I think Tellerico could potentially have a puncher's chance in Texas because, the GOP just is, kind of having, this sort of civil war infighting amongst themselves in the state of Texas right now? Yeah, maybe, but I wouldn't put money on it. And I think at the end of the day, these two parties are absolutely irredeemable. You cannot fix this problem. You cannot Band-Aid it. You have to destroy it. You have to start something different. Now, again, I agree. It's not going to happen at the ballot box. There's way too many seats. I do think that local elections absolutely matter. You want to know who your city council members are. You want to know who your mayor is. You want to know who your county commissioners are. But most people don't know who those people are. They just pay attention to the top races, most of which will never affect you directly. But when you know about what's going on at the local level, and most of those races are not partisan, they're usually you can be independent and run for those seats. Those types of things absolutely make a difference. In the interim, I think being very concise about where you put your money is very important. And that brings us back to what you initially said about Plattner. I think Plattner is a solid candidate, and I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win for a variety of reasons. Number one, Janet Mills is completely fading into the dustbin of history. So he's going to be the nominee. And Susan Collins is a walking corpse, and he has fresh energy. He absolutely toes the line between progressivism and libertarianism, which is exactly what Maine wants. It's exactly what New England wants outside of Boston. So the idea that
and the Nazis might not vote for him, but with the tattoo, at the very least, they'll stay home.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I can walk. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think he's got a really good chance. And that's where, you also look at the fundraising in terms of how well he's done. And you say, okay, that's a race that's in good shape. Other races, maybe not so much. And in the case of Kshama Sawant, she's fundraising a decent amount of money, but she's not swimming in money. So unless you're swimming in money, and again, it's still a little early because her election truly counts in November, this is still the time to really start fortifying your positions. And if we can pick one race where we can flip a seat and put in somebody who absolutely has a revolutionary streak, Washington's 9th district is the one we're going with, and we hope to see it through once we get to November.
Well, yeah,
I know Keaton's going to stab me for opening up a topic this broad, but I'm going to do it anyway. All right, so being in this being in this country,
of being exactly. I can't get to him.
He can't slap me here.
Yeah.
So when I'm in New York, sometimes he'll drive downstate. I'll answer the door. He slaps me, goes back,
and leaves.
He just goes back. It's amazing. His wife, he tells his wife he's going out for ice cream. He comes down, slaps me, goes back with the Haagen-Dazs.
I got the keys to your apartment, bitch. I could go in there and just put a board with nails right.
And you're out of town right now, so
there's nothing you could do. I could Home Alone that whole apartment. You could light your hair on fire as soon as you step in the door.
Keaton could fabulous Mr. Ripley me, man. He has documents going back to my grandparents' wedding that I have him holding. Right. Yeah. Wow. He could become me.
I have him around here somewhere.
He could be me.
I don't remember exactly where I put him, not to alarm you.
That's comforting. No, seriously, I gave those things to him in case I'm not coming back to the country, so he can send those things to me wherever I go. Like World War III is about to break out. You could have martial law by the time I'm supposed to come back. We'll see what happens. But all right, so being here, something that has really struck me is how much they developed a very clear ideological commitment long before the United States ever set foot in the country. They developed that struggling against the French. This is from early 20th century. They're forming communist cells in the prisons and developing political education. They have a very clear idea of what they want, of what revolution means to them. And you could argue that's a big part of why they won the war, because they understood exactly what they were fighting for. They didn't just start this political education when America showed up. They had been doing it by that time for over 50 years. They had been developing a cadre of people with a real vision of what they wanted the country to be. I think in America, and we're guilty of this too. I mean, not guilty of it. You have to know what you want to commit to. You're not going to lead people down a primrose path. You have to know what you believe in. But when we talk about revolution, your channel is called Revolutionary Change. I think most of us, ourselves included, really have not defined what those terms are. And I think it is part of what makes the left in America so mushy, because there's no clear message. There's no clear, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Do you want to overthrow the government? Do you not want to overthrow the government? If you want to overthrow the government, if you want a completely different system, what does that system look like? Do you have democratic processes, or do you, as in these communist countries, have democratic processes within a party and not outside of it, so that you have no other parties competing? Like, what does that look like? And I think until the left has a sizable contingent that can agree on something like that, it's always going to be subject to fights over identity and class and, you know, all this shit, which I believe has largely been driven by intelligence services running a psyop to defang the left since the 60s. I think that's a big part of why the left looks like that. So when you talk about revolution, what are you talking about?
Well, I think it's pretty clear cut what some of the parameters are. The first one, which is the most obvious, is that if you really want to spark a revolution, you have to hit them where it hurts. And there's only one place, and that's in the wallet. So anytime there is any type of, let's just say, BDS, whether it's legislation, actions that are taking place, it's the one thing that perks up their ears. Now, in the time that I lived in South Florida, the only thing that Wasserman Schultz did more than sucking off Netanyahu every time she could get in the same room as him was pushing forward anti-BDS legislation. It's basically what she was known for. And so the reason that that is the case.
Oh my God, can you at least wipe Donald Trump's shit off first?
And that, of course, is what gets all of them going. It's just not the only one. I mean, if you think about it, the ones that pose, if you will, you know, there are always going to be, there's that line that you can walk up to and then you decide whether you're going to cross it or not. And
Right.
so if you're not about economic boycotts, you will never change anything, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing you have to consider is, and I'm only going to say a little bit about this, everyone should go do their own research. How do you want to acquire and utilize money within this current system? And by that, I mean, what kind of money? Think about it. Think about the dollar and where it's going. And once you go down that road, you'll understand how revolution happens, because that's where we're going. There is no way to stop this. We are inevitably going to collapse as an empire. We're already kind of there. And, you know, I would say that the one true silver lining of having Trump is that he has completely opened up the masses' eyes, because there is no hiding with him. He just puts it out there. And everyone who gets their panties in a bunch over him, I feel like saying, please save me your fucking, pontifications, if you will, or your grandstanding about, oh, how bad Trump is. No, he's just doing all the things that for millennia, people in the highest positions of society have been able to get away with, but they've always been a little bit more coy about it than him. He just doesn't care. And partially he doesn't care because he knows his time on this earth is kind of limited at this point. So he's trying to get every little nook and cranny he can so that the American psycho of a son-in-law of his can take over the empire, which will happen. Jen is convinced he's not going to live through his term, which is probably true as well, knowing his health and how he's going at this point. 3 years at his age and the way he lives his life with how unhealthy he is, wouldn't surprise me in the least. But,
well, it's funny. Sorry to cut you off, but I have to run this by you because I think he'll live through his term, but I think they're going to force him to resign because I think the real play that they want to make is J.D. Vance. I think they are very invested in J.D. Vance. I think the tech oligarchs really feel like Vance is the guy who can really build the Palantir state.
And you just hit it right on the head. You see, there's a lot of tech oligarchs and giants in this country, but make no mistake. There is one tech company above all others, and that's Palantir.
That's Palantir.
I mean,
and he's their
Alex
guy.
Karp. Yeah, I mean, Alex Karp, he is Big Brother from 1984. Like, he truly is the embodiment. And when
he's O'Brien.
When he talks about killing innocent children, like he jerks off talking about it. Like, that's how hot it is.
He's manic. He's manic, and Vance is their guy. And I think that Vance is really not electorally viable unless he is able to take over as an incumbent and run as an incumbent. You're already seeing Gavin Newsom has beaten J.D. Vance by 7-8 points across multiple polls now. And you say, well, how could Gavin Newsom possibly be a viable candidate? Well, I mean, he's literally running against the T-1000. He may as well be running against the Robert Patrick in Terminator 2. I mean, that's what Vance is. He is an android programmed to destroy the human race by the gods of that world, by Peter Thiel and Karp and all that. So So I think that they will probably have to force Donald Trump to step aside. They'll say he's sick or something, and maybe he will be sick or something. But I don't see how I don't see how they allow Trump to finish the term, because I think it's too steep a climb for Vance to win at this rate, given how fast things are falling apart. And that just brings me to this. I just want to show you some of these graphics here. So president is underwater in every swing state, with disapproval topping approval.
Me, that is totally fake news. You don't know what you're talking
fake
about.
polls.
You have to call it as I see it. If you call it as I see it, then we are way up in the polls, way up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, look at this. I mean, Donald Trump's net approval rating in every state. Look at that. Almost the whole thing is blue, and what's red is mostly barely red. I mean, he's got West Virginia, he's got Oklahoma, he's got Wyoming, where he's like comfortably in the black. Maine, where Plattner's running, -23. North Carolina, another Senate race, -10. Iowa, another Senate race, -11. Alaska, -12, another Senate race. Texas, big Senate race, -9. Florida, -8. Even Mississippi, he's +2. Louisiana, +2. So at this rate, yeah, it feels to me like they're going to have to force him to step aside and gracefully retire and see if Vance can right the ship. But the reason I prepped those graphics was not to make that point, actually. It was to ask you something that this goes back to when we first met each other. And it's funny because the first time that you guys were nice enough to invite us on your show, I ended up doing what was probably in retrospect something kind of rude, which is I urged Jen Perlman not to run for Congress. Listen, don't do it.
Listen,
very good guest I was.
Considering the fact that Jen has left South Florida and is now starting her own form of the revolution, which is living off the land, chickens.
Oh, is she? Where?
Yeah.
Oh, she's raising chickens?
Where's she living?
By March.
Where?
Taylor Greene's territory in Northwest Georgia.
Oh, Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Okay, yeah. Beautiful. All right. Well, the reason I brought that up is because the reason why I didn't think it was worth primarying Debbie Wasserman Schultz is because I said the Democratic electorate is just unreachable. They're the most incurious, shallow, unmovable voters in America. But it seems like as Trump's popularity has collapsed, so has the polling of Democratic leadership. And it does seem like there is, I don't know if you can call it a Tea Party movement quite yet, but there is certainly a rebellion within the Democratic Party against the leadership that made itself abundantly clear in the Mamdani victory. I think you're seeing that in the Plattner polling now. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I don't want to say we started off sort of at odds about that, but I remember the first time I met you guys, we spent a lot of time talking about, can the Democratic base ever have their Tea Party moment where they rebel against the leadership? And I was absolutely convinced it could never happen. And it seems like it's happening now, at least more than I ever thought possible.
No, it's not going to happen, but it will happen regionally. There will be certain pockets that will step up. Again, Plattner would be a good example of that because it's not really, Maine is not a Democratic state. And at the end of the day, Gavin Newsom, it has already been decided, is going to be the nominee for president in 2028. And by that, I mean, the superdelegates have already gotten their marching orders. We know where the money's going to go. And if the Democrats want to make sure that they win, as much as I hate having to say this, if AOC does run for president and she ends up taking the VP slot alongside Newsom, that might be enough to actually win. I hate to say it, but as much as I want to get away from the two-party system, you can still look objectively at what's happening in front of you. The average Democratic voter still does what they're told. And since no one is actually telling them to get rid of Schumer, Jeffries, even Pelosi is still pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Heck, they won't even get rid of Wasserman Schultz. Wasserman Schultz is probably going to be out of Congress after this term because the GOP is going to rewrite a couple of congressional seats in the state, and it looks like her district is on the chopping block. And that's pretty much it. That's how these things sort of come to an end because they're not going to just give it up voluntarily. That's the problem. And then you look at all the different stupid infighting that goes on amongst the consultant class. Look at the shit that they're doing in Texas right now with Tellerico, all of the, black faces in high places that are calling him a racist and saying that he doesn't really give a shit. And it's like, it's not about whether they believe it or not. It's about how do I get paid? Right. And I think there's way too much of that that is going on in the political arena where the Democratic establishment will absolutely destroy itself before it allows some type of a revolutionary moment to happen within its party. So that's why I understand the sentiment from where a lot of people come from, where they say, what's the point of voting if we're just going to end up with the same problem? If the Democratic Party is going to continue to have super delegates, there is absolutely no point in even attempting anything, because there's always going to be that safety valve that they could just shut down and stop you dead in your tracks anytime they want. And they're completely content. They allowed Donald Trump to be president twice. So I'm not convinced that the party in its totality is going to change. But I do think in regions it will change, because it's inevitable. Where they're young, where they're progressive, maybe even libertarian. Again, like I said, Plattner's a good example of that. Kshama Sawant, even though she's not a Democrat, but she's definitely a progressive. Those are examples of regional spots where I do think those changes will happen. But in terms of it happening as an overall change within the party, I mean, look around. They look at it as, maybe if Trump goes to war with Iran, maybe that'll make sure that we win the midterms. Because in the end, that's all they give a shit about anyway. So that's my thought.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if we get a war with Iran, I mean, I just don't see it turning around for the Republican Party, which means the question becomes, what do the Democrats do? I mean, look at this in Texas. Look at the early voting for the primary, which is on March 3rd. The Democrats are outvoting Republicans by 100,000 votes in Texas. 100,000. That's insane. It's a 10% margin in Texas.
That is a lot,
I mean, this is it's a blowout. It's a blowout. Now they're going to go to war with Iran?
Well, here's the thing. A couple of things that you have to keep in mind. There are two variables here. The first one is
false flags and martial law.
Yeah. Yeah.
As much as I want to say that that's not going to happen, I say that nothing is off the table at any time.
Of course.
Dude, I have not booked a flight home for a reason.
Oh, I don't blame
I haven't.
I don't blame
I don't know what's going to, yeah.
Listen.
When I do buy one, I'm going to spring for the
magically
refundable.
just disappears in the middle of the Atlantic. I mean, shit happens, man.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened. It's a very
which flight is that Tabula on? We have
it's
planes in the region.
I heard about this guy, Russell Dobule. He's a really terrible person. He talks a lot of crap about me. Will you make sure you take care of that plane? It's going to be really spectacular when it goes down.
No, I think what's the one
Iran.
Yeah, the one variable that gets ignored here is that GOP voters in particular vote on election day. That is a known thing within the GOP.
Yeah.
They are known to get to the ballot box on election day. It's a thing. It's a cultural thing. It's important. They want to see all their friends. It's like having a cookout at the polling station. So for them, that's actually an important component. The other variable, which I don't think people are truly not grasping yet, and that's why, like I said, voting blue won't save you. Do people still not understand that this is an oligarch's game that just goes back and forth between the two parties whenever they feel like it? Whenever they decide they want to give $100 million to one side, $100 million to the other side. Miriam Adelson decided to give $100 million to Donald Trump instead of Kamala Harris because she was convinced that he would be able to get more of what she wanted done had he gotten in there. Trump didn't need $100 million from Miriam Adelson to get elected. He took the $100 million because he was willing to make a deal with her saying, no, you totally give me that money. I'll do whatever you want. And she gave him that money and he's doing exactly what they want. Yeah, that's how it works.
No
as much as I
it.
hate seeing that that's what humanity has come to, but it's now being exposed for all of us to see. You think anything's changed? Could you imagine what a ruthless, cold-blooded bastard LBJ was behind the scenes? What a ruthless, cold-blooded bastard Woodrow Wilson was behind the scenes? Very little has changed. The only difference now is that we get to see it up close and personal. Fact of the matter is most people don't like what they see. And the more you rub it in their face, the more likely they're going to rebel. It doesn't happen overnight, but the more they see it, the more they don't trust it. For the love of Christ, they do insider trading in front of our faces all day, every day. They are literally ripping us off. They are using our money to go make bets so that they can get richer and we get fucked because the dollar gets devalued. That's
why I think this is a moment where you need to develop a very clear proposition for the public, a very clear choice of what you're talking about. Like mushy, I'm not saying, we back candidates. I'm not saying that's useless or you shouldn't do it. I see it as harm reduction at best, like in terms of what you should be pitching to people. I think there needs to be a consensus. Otherwise, you'll always be weak. You'll always be weak. A big part of the success of MAGA, I've always said this about them, man. If you like what they're about, that's a pure heroin version of that, right? If you're into that, they're giving you pure heroin. If you are a leftist, where are you going to get your fix, man? Nobody in the electoral system is giving that to you. You got to have something that is very clear to pitch to people of what you're trying to do, and that's not there right now. And it's every day that's not there. It's a missed opportunity because, as you point out, the elites and the system that they are engineering and have engineered has never been as discredited in America as it is right now. Probably never in American history has the entire system been this discredited. This is a great opportunity to make a pitch for a completely alternate system. The problem is there is not a large enough faction with a clear consensus that can be pitched in a way that's digestible to the public. It doesn't exist. There's just no group there with the power or the message to fully take advantage of this moment.
Well, I would also say that one of the biggest problems that we have experienced in left populism is that there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of people who either want to lead the charge or want to be given credit for, certain things. Listen, Jen and I have been the brainchild, respectively, of a number of things that are out there right now, and we will not say what it is, but we don't need the credit for it because that's not what this is about. This is about a mission, and if you're going to serve that mission, it is imperative that you put your differences aside. This is why I always say, I've had my disagreements with Jimmy, but he was 1,000% correct about forcing the vote, and the people that decided that they didn't want to get on board with that because they don't like Jimmy, it's like, to hell with you. Then what the hell are you doing this for? Unless you're not doing it for the reasons you say you're doing it for. Perhaps you're just doing it to get paid. And let's face it, in this world, you can get paid a lot of money by just shit posting and constantly talking about the same problems over and over again. Either you're part of the solution or you're not. We had our differences. We put them aside. I think the world of Savvy. I think the world of Jay Buffon. I think Nick has done a great job. We will always disagree on a multitude of different things, but you know what? Check your ego at the door and just figure out how in the hell we're getting out of this hellhole.
I think.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right.
No, I think this is why I mentioned our day in St. Louis. With the African People's Socialist Party and all their organizing. We were filming a documentary that day, so our phones were only used for filming that day. One of the reasons why that day, I think in retrospect, was so inspiring was not just because of what I was seeing, but because I wasn't seeing. It's the first day, it's probably the only day in years that I've spent without any screen time on social media, without being in this constant feedback loop of rage and negativity. You're actually out.
You mean to tell me you went out and touched grass?
Yeah, you're actually out in the world seeing like real things happen. And people like lift each other up, and people support each other in real life. And I think that's something that we all kind of have to have the humility to think about because we're online. We make our living online. The bulk of our activism is online. But there's a lot more to the world than being online. And I think the critical connections that you form with people are done in the real world. And that it really has to be a major component of this because I think people get a very warped sense of what real life is when they spend all their time online. So, yeah, I think that's super important. Go ahead.
I definitely agree. And this is why the relationships you form can allow you the opportunity to do things when it's absolutely necessary and critical. I'm sure most people saw the interview the other day between Tucker Carlson and Mike Huckabee, which was deeply disturbing on its face, to say the least, in terms of what came out of Huckabee's mouth. But when he decided to go after Anthony Aguilar, who I consider a friend, I was like, all right, corporate media is not going to ask Anthony to come on and be like, hey, did you hear this? He said that you lied about seeing the IDF shoot Palestinian children at the food sites
at
in
the
Gaza.
GHF.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, can you hop on tomorrow night? And so last night he came on, and these are the opportunities where you use your platform, however which way you can, to try to get more and more people to see what's really going on here. Anyone that's still caught up in the red versus blue fight, they're like at the first rung on the ladder. They do not understand that you're just
even
time, energy, money, resources that frankly could be used for much more effective ways to try to enact this change. And so that's our job. Our job with our respective platforms is try to make this change plausible. And the fact that we're able to lock arms without ego is half the battle to begin with. That's why you guys are always welcome on our channel and vice versa. The same is true for a number of others out there that are on a similar mission. And we always try to pay it forward. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what this is all about. If you're able to make a living off of it, fantastic. You're putting in the work, you deserve it. But never forget why we're doing this. At least that's the impetus that I take. Every time I get in front of the camera, I try to do everything I can to try to give back and pay it forward however which way I can.
Yeah, well, I just have to say for everybody, you know, because we did a segment last week about Hollywood actors, about how it's really hard for them to speak out against Israel because they're Hollywood actors. Peter was a commercial real estate agent in South Florida. So if he could speak out against Israel, then that's about the worst career you could have if you're going to speak out against Israel. And he does it.
No idea. I mean, listen, when I moved up,
did you get spit on?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what has happened. We'll do a little diverge here. So I have a handful of voicemails that I've saved on my phone. One of them is a voicemail and another is a text thread, basically telling me how you're never going to make another deal again in your life.
Right, I'm sure. Yeah.
We're going to tell everybody you're on the watch list. I've had people call me, threaten to kill me. I've had it all. But you know what? I don't care. It doesn't bother me. And the reason it doesn't bother me is because you have to make peace with the reality that if you're going to go down this revolutionary path, there are risks.
You can't sell real estate.
No, you can't. Definitely not in South Florida. In the Florida Panhandle, where everybody is, pretty much. I mean, they're like all get off my lawn, libertarian, conservative, and very Christian and anti-Israel. Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, this is where you can be.
Yeah. You put like anti-Zionist on your business card when you're working down there.
Yeah, right.
One thing I always tell everybody is that, look, I'm not going to post it on my personal social media too often, but I'm not going to hide who I am, and I'm not going to hide what I believe. And if you don't like what I believe, that's okay. I will tell you, there was a gentleman that lived in Boca who was, he's a big commercial investor. And, initially I thought we were going to work together, and we ended up having coffee in Delray Beach not too long after October 7th. And as soon as we sat down, he said, God, I just want to fucking kill all those Palestinians, wipe them off the face of the earth. And that was the last time I ever met with him.
Wow.
And we have not worked together, and we never will. Did I sacrifice a considerable amount of income potentially by avoiding working with him? Yes. And you know what? I can sleep at night knowing that I wouldn't take his blood money. And that's what you have to consider if you're going to go down this road. You can choose who you work with. That is an option. But if you choose to say one thing and do something else, well, unfortunately, we all know that there are people out there that will say one thing, they will do something else. Just be honest. That's all we want. I know it's hard, but in lieu of what's going on right now, being truthful to what this mission is all about, it's hard. And it can be very devastating and lonely at times. I get it. I know everybody's going through hell because I'm going through it. I've gone through it for years and I've made my sacrifices. But I also know, like I said, that I can put my head down at night and know that every day I'm trying to do something better for humanity. And that's what you guys are doing as well. And that's what counts more than anything.
Well, it's revolutionarychangepac.com. Please go and check it out. Peter, great to see you again, my friend. Thanks so much for join in. If you guys are watching on Revolutionary Change, come over and watch the rest of the show over here if you are so inclined. So thanks a lot, Peter. Appreciate it. Any other things you want to, any other places people can find you? Obviously, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You guys are on Rumble too, I assume?
I heard you got a beautiful piece of land down there.
Well, Jen's got some land, so we're growing some fruits and veggies off of the land, which would be great. If you guys are not currently subscribed to Revolutionary Change on YouTube and Rumble, please make sure that you subscribe there as well. If you guys are watching on my channel, make sure you're subscribed to Do Dissonance as well on both YouTube and Rumble. Thank you for having me on, guys. Hope we'll talk again real soon.
Of course,
Thank
man.
you, Peter.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. All right, Pete Hager, everybody. Thanks for being here. What's that? I got to load in my videos again, actually.
All right. So, right. Okay. All right. Because right as of now, I've got to basically hold the mic so it doesn't swing.
Oh.
All right. All right. Go ahead. Do your thing.
Very
I'll do
cool.
some chats.
All right, everybody. Go ahead.